The 1 shilling coin of 1956 is a fascinating piece of British numismatic history, issued during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, only a few years after she ascended to the throne in 1952. The coin bears the inscription FID Def, which is short for Fidei Defensor, meaning Defender of the Faith, one of the many royal titles carried by British monarchs. This inscription has been used on British coinage for centuries, originally granted to King Henry VIII by the Pope and retained by successive rulers, symbolizing the monarch's role as protector of the Christian faith. The 1956 shilling was part of the predecimal currency system of the United Kingdom, in which 1 shilling equaled 12 pence and 20 shillings equaled £1 sterling, £1. This system remained in use until the decimalization of British currency in 1971. Design-wise, the 1956 1 shilling coin had two varieties: the English shilling and the Scottish shilling, each with a different reverse design reflecting the union of the nations within the UK. The English shilling featured a crowned lion standing atop a crown, while the Scottish shilling showed a crowned Scottish lion rampant inside a shield with a crown above. Both designs symbolized unity, yet also respected the distinct identities of England and Scotland within the United Kingdom. On the obverse front of the coin was the young portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Mary Gillick, showing her wearing a laurel wreath. This portrait is especially admired because it captured her youth and grace at the beginning of her reign. The edges of the coin were milled, reeded, to prevent clipping of the silver content, a common issue in older centuries when coins were cut for precious metal. In terms of metal composition, the 1956 shilling was not made of silver, but of cupronickel, 75% copper, 25% nickel. This was because Britain had already stopped issuing circulating silver coinage after 1946, moving instead to base metal alloys due to economic constraints following World War II. Earlier shillings, before 1920 and partially until 1946, contained silver, but by the 1950s, shillings had no intrinsic silver value. Despite this, the coins still hold strong historical and collectible importance. The diameter of the coin was approximately 23.5 millimeters, and the weight was around 5.65 grams, making it a solid medium-sized coin of its era. From a historical perspective, the 1956 1 shilling coin captures an important transitional time in British society and economics. The UK was still recovering from post-war hardships. Rationing had only ended in 1954, and Queen Elizabeth II was still establishing herself as a new monarch on the global stage. Coins like this shilling were a daily reminder of the monarchy's presence in everyday life, circulating widely in shops, markets, and households across Britain. They also served as cultural symbols of stability in a time of change, since money was something people handled every day. In the modern collector's market, the value of the 1956 shilling depends on its condition, rarity of variety, English versus Scottish type, and whether it has any unique minting errors. In average circulated condition, these coins are relatively common and can be worth between $1 to $3. However, coins in extremely fine EF or uncirculated UNC condition, showing no wear and with original mint luster, can fetch higher prices, often between $10 and $25. Proof-like or exceptionally well-preserved specimens may sell for more, especially if slabbed certified by grading companies such as NGC or PCGS. It is important to note that while the coin has no silver content and thus no intrinsic bullion value, its worth is entirely driven by collector demand, historical importance, and condition. When compared internationally, such as in the United States numismatic market, the 1956 shilling is seen as an attractive entry-level British coin for collectors interested in world coins. Many U.S. collectors enjoy collecting FID Def coins of the 1950s because they show the very first portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. Marketplaces like eBay, heritage auctions, and various numismatic dealers regularly list these coins, with prices in US dollars typically in the $2 to $20 range depending on grade and type. Rare varieties or error strikes may sometimes command a premium. Collectors of British Commonwealth coinage. 2. Consider it a desirable piece, not for its rarity, but for its symbolic connection to post-war Britain and the early years of Queen Elizabeth II's long reign. In conclusion, the 1956 1 shilling FID Def coin is more than just an obsolete piece of currency. It represents a snapshot of British history in the mid-20th century, combining heraldic symbolism, early Elizabethan portraiture, and the practical use of cupronickel coinage in everyday trade. While its market value in today's dollar terms is modest, usually ranging from a couple of dollars to about $20, its true value lies in the story it tells about the United Kingdom, the monarchy, and the transition of British money in the pre-decimal era. Collectors treasure it not only as a coin, but as a piece of living history. Beyond its physical and numismatic qualities, the 1956 1 shilling coin also carries cultural weight. It is one of the earliest coins to feature Queen Elizabeth II, and because her reign went on to become the longest in British history, these early coins are cherished as the beginning of a numismatic journey that lasted for 7 decades. Collectors often like to trace the evolution of her portrait through different coin issues, and the 1956 shilling is part of the very first design series. This makes it more attractive historically, even if it is not extremely rare. Another point worth mentioning is the two-type system of English and Scottish shillings. Collectors usually aim to keep both versions to complete their collection. While both types were minted in similar quantities, some years saw slightly higher production of one over the other. For the year 1956, both versions exist in circulation, and neither is especially scarce, but condition plays the major role in determining value. Coins that were heavily used in circulation show smoothing and loss of detail, while well-preserved examples can show crisp lions, crowns, and lettering. In terms of the international coin market, many dealers classify the 1956 shilling as a collector-friendly coin. This means it is affordable, available in decent numbers, but still old enough to hold historic charm. Such coins are often sold in bulk to beginner collectors or included in world coin sets. However, specialized collectors who focus on Elizabeth II's reign sometimes pay a premium for well-struck, uncirculated examples. This is especially true in the United States, Canada, and Australia, where interest in British Commonwealth coins is strong. Economically, the coin itself no longer has purchasing power since the shilling system was abolished in 1971 with decimalization. However, in terms of numismatic appreciation, its story adds intangible value. For example, a collector might not just buy the coin for $5 or $10, but also value it for its place in British monetary history. This blend of history, heritage, and affordability is what keeps coins like the 1956 shilling popular among hobbyists worldwide. To give an idea of its modern dollar market value, here's a breakdown. Circulated condition, $1 to $3 USD. Fine to very fine condition, $4 to $8 USD. Extremely fine, YEF $10 to $15 USD. Uncirculated, UNC/mint state $20 to $25 plus USD. Converting this into today's terms, for example in Pakistani currency, this means the coin's worth usually ranges between PKR 300 to PKR 7,000, depending on condition and demand. In short, the 1956 FID-def 1 shilling coin is not rare in terms of scarcity, but it is rich in meaning. It marks the early years of Elizabeth II's reign, it represents the end of Silver-era shillings, and it bridges tradition with modernity in British coinage. Collectors around the world continue to keep it in their collections not because of its metal value, but because of the story it carries. The 1959 1 shilling coin is a British pre-decimal coin issued under the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. At that time, the United Kingdom was still using the pre-decimal currency system, where 1 shilling was equal to 12 pence and 20 shillings made £1 sterling. The coin is part of the long historical tradition of shillings, which go back several centuries, but the post-World War II issues are particularly interesting because they bridge the gap between the old monetary system and the modern decimalized system introduced in 1971. On the 1959 shilling, the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II appears. This was the first definitive portrait used from her coronation in 1953 until the mid-1960s. Around her portrait, the Latin inscription, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina F. Laughingface, is written, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. The abbreviation FID-def stands for Fidei Defensor, meaning Defender of the Faith, a title first granted to Henry VIII and still carried by monarchs today. This historical inscription emphasizes the religious and political authority of the monarch during that era. The coin features 2 different designs depending on whether the coin was minted for England or Scotland. For the English shilling, The reverse shows the three lions passant guardant, which is part of the royal arms of England, topped by a crown. For the Scottish shilling, the reverse design includes a crowned lion rampant, also part of the Royal Scottish Arms. Both versions are inscribed with the words 1 shilling and the year 1959 at the bottom. Collectors often enjoy having both versions in their collection, as they represent the unity of England and Scotland under one monarchy, but also preserve their distinct national symbols. In terms of metal composition, the 1959 1 shilling coin was made from cupronickel, 75% copper, and 25% nickel. Earlier shillings before 1946 contained silver, but due to rising costs, post-1946 issues were entirely struck in cupronickel. The coin weighs around 5.65 grams, has a diameter of about 23.5 millimeters, and features a milled reeded edge. Even though these coins were intended for everyday use, many have survived in fairly good condition because cupronickel is durable and resistant to tarnish compared to silver. From a historical perspective, coins like the 1959 shilling represent the economic climate of post-war Britain. The United Kingdom was still recovering from the financial strain of World War II, and the switch to base metal coinage reflects both practicality and necessity. At the same time, the shilling played an important role in trade and daily transactions, being a convenient medium-value coin widely used by the population. In fact, when decimalization happened in 1971, the 1 shilling coin continued to circulate as the equivalent of 5 new pence until it was eventually demonetized in 1990. This means the 1959 1 shilling had a working life of over 30 years, much longer than many modern coins. When it comes to collectability and value in today's market, the 1959 1 shilling is not considered an extremely rare coin, but it is still desirable for those who collect pre-decimal British coins or Queen Elizabeth II's early coinage. Most circulated examples are worth around $1 to $3 depending on condition. However, coins in very fine to extremely fine condition can bring around $5 to $10. If the coin is in an uncirculated or mint state condition, collectors may pay between $15 and $30, and in rare certified high-grade conditions, the value could reach $40 or more. The distinction between the English reverse type and the Scottish reverse type also matters slightly. Some collectors are willing to pay a premium if they need one version to complete their set. In the United States coin market, British coins like the 1959 shilling are considered world coins and are often sold in coin shops, antique markets, or online platforms such as eBay. Their value in dollars usually depends on both the grade of the coin and the collector demand at the time. While it is not a coin that will make someone rich, it holds important numismatic value because it reflects an early period of Queen Elizabeth II's reign and the transition era before decimalization. For historical collectors, such coins provide insight into the political, cultural, and economic history of mid-20th century Britain. Overall, the 1959 1 shilling fid-def coin is a fascinating piece of British numismatic history. It tells a story of tradition, monarchy, and transition, and while its monetary market value is modest in the range of $1 to $30 depending on condition, its historical and collectible significance is much richer. For anyone in the United States or elsewhere who collects foreign coins, it represents an accessible and tangible link to Britain's royal and monetary past. When we look deeper into the 1959 1 shilling coin, we see that it is not just a simple piece of currency, but a true historical artifact. The late 1950s were a period of change for the United Kingdom. The country was adjusting to its role in the post-war world, moving away from its vast colonial empire and redefining itself within Europe and the wider Western Alliance during the Cold War era. Coins like the 1959 shilling carry with them the symbolism of that transformation. In the international coin collector market, British pre-decimal coins have always held strong interest. In the United States especially, many collectors of world coins and enthusiasts of British Empire history value these shillings as part of their collections. For sellers, platforms like eBay and numismatic auction sites provide an opportunity to trade such coins. While a regular circulated example may only sell for a few dollars, a coin in uncirculated or proof-like condition can sell for much more, making it a small but valuable investment piece for collectors. The artistry and design of the 1959 shilling also adds to its charm. The obverse features a youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, symbolizing the optimism of a new era following the coronation in 1953. This portrait is significant because it was used during her early reign, making it especially collectible today. On the reverse, the two designs, the English version with the 3 lions and the Scottish version with the crowned rampant lion, represent the unity of the United Kingdom while also acknowledging its separate national traditions. This duality gives collectors an extra reason to seek out both types to complete a pair. Another important fact is that the 1959 1 shilling was one of the final representatives of the traditional pre-decimal shillings. When the UK switched to decimal currency in 1971, the 1 shilling was officially replaced by the 5 new pence coin, but interestingly, the old shillings remained legal tender for nearly 2 more decades until they were finally withdrawn in 1990. This gave the 1959 shilling a working life of about 30 years, which is a very long lifespan for a coin in modern times. In terms of market value, it varies depending on geography and condition. In the UK, these coins often sell for around £1 to £10 sterling, depending on grade. In the US market, they are generally valued at $1 to $30. Coins in brilliant uncirculated BU, condition, or graded by professional services can sometimes fetch $40 or more, especially when both the English and Scottish reverse types are offered as a set. For collectors, the real value of the 1959 shilling is not just in dollars or pounds, but in the historical connection it provides. Holding such a coin is like holding a piece of Britain's story, its monarchy, its traditions, and its transition into the modern financial system. These coins may not make someone rich, but they are affordable, educational, and highly collectible for anyone interested in the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II and the British monetary system. The 1 shilling coin of 1962 is a part of the British pre-decimal currency system that existed before the United Kingdom officially decimalized its currency in 1971. The shilling was a key denomination in British money and carried immense significance in trade, commerce, and everyday life. The abbreviation FID-DEF inscribed on the coin stands for Fidei Defensor, a Latin title meaning Defender of the Faith. This title has been used by English and British monarchs since the reign of King Henry VIII, who originally received it from the Pope in the early 1500s. By 1962, this coin was struck under the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, who had ascended the throne in 1952 following the death of her father, King George VI. Design and appearance. The of the 1962 1 shilling features the portrait of a young Queen Elizabeth II designed by artist Mary Gillick. This portrait shows the Queen facing to the right, crowned with a laurel wreath, symbolizing youth, grace, and authority. Around the rim of the coin, the inscription reads, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina F. Laughingface : which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. The reverse back side of the coin has 2 major types, the English type and the Scottish type. The English shilling features the crowned shield of England with 3 lions passant guardant, while the Scottish shilling displays a crowned lion rampant on a shield. Both designs highlight the unity of the United Kingdom under one currency. At the bottom, the year 1962 is inscribed. Composition and weight. The 1962 1 shilling was made of cupronickel, a mixture of copper and nickel. As silver had already been removed from circulating British coins after 1947 due to rising costs. The coin weighs approximately 5.65 grams with a diameter of 23.5 millimeters. Its reeded edge gave it a distinct feel and made it harder to counterfeit. Historical context. The year 1962 falls during the early decades of Queen Elizabeth II's reign. Britain at that time was transitioning into a more modern society, with changing industries, international relations, and preparation for the eventual shift to decimal currency. The shilling represented 1/20th of a pound sterling, or 12 old pence in the pre-decimal system. For ordinary British citizens, shillings were commonly used in daily purchases, public transport, and small trade transactions. The phrase "a bob" was also commonly used as slang for a shilling, making it a cultural icon of British currency history. Collectability and numismatic value. From a collector's standpoint, the 1962 1 shilling is not considered extremely rare because it was produced in large quantities for circulation. However, its value depends greatly on its condition, rarity of type, English or Scottish design, and mint luster. Circulated examples may only be worth a small premium over face value, often around $1 to $3 in average condition. However, coins in uncirculated or proof-like condition can attract higher prices ranging between $10 to $30. For collectors in the United States of America, the value also depends on market demand. Since British pre-decimal coins are popular among history lovers and royal enthusiasts, a 1962 shilling can sometimes sell for $15 to $50 if preserved in excellent grade, especially when sold through online auctions or specialized coin shows. Dollar market value today. In the modern dollar market, the 1962 shilling is still affordable for new collectors, but can be a little more valuable for those looking for specific mint conditions or complete year sets of Elizabeth II coins. While common circulated versions may not exceed a few dollars, high-quality versions graded by professional agencies like NGC or PeaceGS can fetch higher sums. Some rare error coins or proof strikes may also cross the $100 mark, though such cases are uncommon. Overall, the 1962 shilling remains more of a historical keepsake than a high-value investment, but its significance lies in its connection to the early reign of Queen Elizabeth II and the fading era of the British pre-decimal monetary system. Summary for collectors and investors. The 1962 1 shilling FID-def coin represents history, tradition, and royal symbolism. While it is not among the rarest or most valuable coins in the world, it still attracts steady collector interest. In today's US dollar market, it typically ranges from $1 to $3 for circulated examples, $10 to $30 for uncirculated pieces, and occasionally higher for special editions or error coins. Its worth lies more in heritage, design, and nostalgia rather than pure monetary value. Cultural importance of the 1962 shilling. The 1962 1 shilling coin carries cultural weight beyond just being a piece of metal currency. During the early 1960s, Britain was seeing social and economic shifts. The coin became a part of everyday language, as people frequently referred to it in casual talk. Phrases like two bob, meaning 2 shillings, became common, and the shilling often appeared in British literature, newspapers, and even songs. For Americans who may not be familiar, a shilling was not just money. It represented a unique era of pre-decimal Britain, where calculations of pounds, shillings, and pence required skill and practice. Comparison with the United States dollar. When comparing this coin to American money of the same time, it's important to note that the shilling had an approximate value of 1/20th of a pound, which was roughly equal to 14 US cents in the early 1960s. That meant the shilling had purchasing power in Britain similar to what a dime or a little more could buy in the US at that time. Over the decades, inflation and economic change have altered that comparison. Today, the collector's value of a 1962 shilling in the US market can be much higher than its original face value, because it is no longer in circulation and belongs to the historical class of coins. Numismatic interest in America. In the United States of America, coin collectors, especially those interested in world coins, often look for British shillings from the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. The year 1962 is not a key rarity, but it still forms an important part of any complete British shilling collection. Dealers and online auction platforms like eBay, heritage auctions, and specialized numismatic websites often list these coins. Prices are influenced by coin grading, whether it is the English shield type or the Scottish shield type, and whether the coin shows full mint luster. American collectors also appreciate these coins as part of Britain's long royal history, which adds to their desirability. Investment and future value. As an investment, the 1962 shilling may not yield high profits in the short term, since it is considered a common issue coin. However, its historical value and connection to the early Elizabethan coinage makes it an attractive option for new collectors. Over time, as more people grow interested in pre-decimal British currency, the demand for coins in uncirculated and proof-like condition is expected to rise. For investors in the United States, acquiring these coins at low prices and keeping them safely stored could result in long-term gains, especially if graded professionally by agencies like PCGS or NGC. Modern dollar market outlook. In today's market, circulated examples of the 1962 shilling may sell for around $1 to $3, which makes them affordable entry points for beginner collectors. Coins in excellent condition, with little wear and strong details, may go for $10 to $20. If a collector comes across a proof strike or error coin, the price may jump anywhere between $50 to $100 depending on rarity and demand. American buyers often pay slightly higher premiums due to shipping costs and limited availability compared to collectors in the UK.